So, dominating much headspace in the PPC community in Q1 was the whole business around consent mode version 2. It was announced that those running ads to countries in the EEA would have to implement consent mode version 2 by the start of March, and in the wake of that announcement was a torrent of uncertainty about the precise nature of those requirements, and above all, the consequences of not implementing them. So for those still not 100% on top of what all of this means, and frankly it's a lot of us, here is a very quick run-through. Consent mode involves A, collecting user consent for Google's tracking tags, e.g. the Google Ads conversion tag and GA4 tags, and B, communicating that consent to the tags before they fire, such that they only fire if consent is granted. The easiest way to do this is through a cookie banner provided by a Google-approved consent management platform, CMP, and Google provides this list of approved CMPs. The CMPs themselves all have detailed guidance on the technical implementation. Once this is up and running and tags are responding appropriately to user choices, Google Ads should pick up on this automatically. The new requirement around consent mode version 2 is that for those advertising to EEA countries, that's EU countries plus Iceland, Norway and Liechtenstein, an upgraded version of consent mode needs to be in place. Upgraded in that there are just 2 additional parameters to be communicated to your tags along with the consent status. And that's now required, we'll come back to what exactly that means, as of the start of March. Exactly what are the repercussions for not implementing this? Well, there have been mixed messages about what exactly this is required for and what will happen if you don't implement. But although Google Ads liaison Ginny Marvin worryingly suggested account suspension in her Q&A on the topic, note that EU consent policy itself, which is the heavy-duty obligation, doesn't require consent mode, though consent mode is a solid way to ensure compliance, at least when it comes to your Google tracking tags. And that policy, that bit of legislation itself, is nothing new, and nothing changed around that in March. Ever since the days of GDPR onset, if not before, we've all frankly been living in a very grey area of uncertainty around cookie policy and the enforcement of it. Consent mode version 2 offers a framework for playing it safe. In most places, the repercussions of not implementing consent mode version 2 are usually discussed in terms of impact on the use of audiences, including for the integral remarketing component of PMax, and in keeping tracking, conversion tracking, as comprehensive as we can hope to keep it in the coming months with all the upcoming cookie changes. Now, with third-party cookies on the way out imminently, the use of enhanced conversions in Google Ads to bypass the cookie to track conversions will become more important, and that will require consent mode being in place. Finally, to assess your requirements in different scenarios, this Privacy Planner tool from Google can be helpful. Now onto some updates that are more fun. So responsive search ads can now show only one headline where this is predicted to improve performance, which according to Google's testing, it often does. And as part of this change, another headline can now show at the start of the description lines. Now this should only happen when it's expected to improve click-through rate, and it will probably do so. The only downside there is that higher click-through rate often goes hand in hand with lower conversion rate, because both of those things, higher click-through rate and lower conversion rate, often result from just being less discriminate about the clicks that we attract. And that could well be a small side effect from this change. But we do have the option to stop it from happening by pinning to headline 2. Now, AI assets for PMax. So AI image generation for PMax campaigns will start using Google's Imagen 2 models with some powerful capabilities. Lifestyle imagery, as in florist arranging a bouquet. It'll be able to generate backgrounds for the image assets that feature non-identifiable people. You'll also be able to generate new images based on existing images for variations of your high-performing assets. According to this timeline, the US rollout should be about complete, soon coming to English language globally. Along with this, Gemini models will also be introduced to help create better text assets for PMax campaigns, and both of these should be useful for fleshing out PMax activity with high-quality assets, as should be this more minor update allowing for the import of Canva images straight into PMax. Now, in a quarter which saw such Jetsonian advances in AI as OpenAI's video generator Sora, and Figure 1, which to my eye looks like the first walking, talking, fairly functional Android, Google's AI offerings still seem relatively unspectacular. But one AI offering from Google that genuinely is impressive and useful is tucked away under cloud.google.com among the smorgasbord of interesting tools here, with thanks to Les van der Mortel for pointing this out to me, and it sits down here under Vertex AI, Language, and it is a text generator capable of producing excellent ad text. And look at this beauty of a default prompt. Just paste in your product description here and enjoy ad text inspiration galore. And yes, ChatGPT can do this very well, but this seems to be even better. Now, in February, it was announced that automatically created assets, as in ad extensions as they were before their name change, would be given equal status to manually created assets in terms of serving, as opposed to only being used as a stopgap where manually created assets were not in place. This sparked a predictable reaction among the PPC community, but on the scale of unwanted automation creep, this only gets a 4 out of 10 from me. They're easy to see, easy to turn off, and automatically created assets are usually not so bad these days. The commission-based strategy for the hotel ads campaign type is being removed, and it's being replaced with target ROAS, which wasn't previously available. Now, with the hotel ads format being introduced to PMax for travel goals, and hotel feeds becoming available for demand gen campaigns, both of which were also announced in Q1, hotel ads as a separate campaign type may be feeling a little insecure about its long-term future. We'll see. Next, with credit to Thomas XL, see his LinkedIn post here, a Google Ads report is coming to GA4. Slightly odd that this hasn't been available up to now, and it will certainly plug a noticeable gap we've had since losing Universal Analytics last year. As of the time of recording, I'm still waiting for this to show up in any of the accounts I've checked, but it should be on the way. But in bigger GA4 news, GA4 conversions are being rebranded as key events, with the term conversions now reserved for those key events or those events that we import into Google Ads to use as conversions there. Now, with that change, not only will Google Ads and GA4 share a definition of what counts as a conversion, but they'll also share the data processing methodology, which they haven't up to now, and which promises to remove the discrepancy between conversions in GA4 and conversions in Google Ads. So a very welcome change there, and one simplification that we can almost all welcome. Search partner data coming to Performance Max. So the PMax campaign placement report will now include data for placements that are part of the search partners network. A surprising one, this, because search partners has always been quite a black box. We've never had individual placement data for it, and it's been hard to know even what search partners are in play. So now we're finally getting some search partner placement data of a kind. It's only impression count, but we're only getting it for the notoriously most secretive campaign type, PMax. Surprising maybe, but this should be useful data. And if you're not familiar with the PMax campaign placement report, have a look at it under predefined reports, Performance Max campaign placements. There you can see which placements are generating impressions and how many, and although the data is only for impression count, you can spot the hopeless looking placements there and remove them as account level placement exclusions, where you can also exclude whole app categories, which is often worth doing. The last highlight from Q1 is that CSSs, comparison shopping services, can now advertise their own products among product listing ads. Wouter Wienbauer of Product Hero made this excellent write-up with more detail. So PLA results now include ads from CSSs driving traffic to their comparison pages. Little more to say about this one except that the expected result is, of course, greater competition among shopping ads. And if you see signs of increased competitor activity among PLAs, this may well be a contributing factor. Finally, we had a set of very valuable insights from Optimizer's State of PPC Report released in March. First, restating the findings of their study into Broad Match, which they carried out last year, and which I would say was quite influential on shifting the general mood on broad match a couple of notches down. Broad match has great in-principle arguments in favour, and those who advocate it tend to do so mainly from those arguments of principle alone, but there's no shortage of studies with empirical data telling us that it is no substitute for exact match. It is, or can be, a useful augmentation in certain situations. And if you're still trying to split the difference with phrase match, I suggest looking up Rob Warner's study from last year for a sobering reality check. The State of PPC report also looked from various angles at what PPCers are doing in their accounts, particularly with PMax, and to what effect. The report is very readable and well worth a look for some rare insights. So another eventful quarter in the world of PPC. If you want to stay on top of changes like this and what we should be doing about them, consider joining my membership for paid search professionals, Google Ads Level Up, linked below.